Prank gone wrong. I tied my husband downstairs and hooked up with my neighbor. Now he wants divorce. I handcuffed my husband to a radiator and got loud with my neighbor while he listened to everything. I am the world's biggest fool and cheat because who in their right mind thinks sleeping with their neighbor while their husband listened is a sane idea? My joke got out of hand and now I am the joker who is being served divorce papers like a common hooker. Yes, I know it's messed up, but trust me, I never planned for things to go that far. I cheated, but it was meant to be a prank. This whole thing is super messed up to the extent that I'm sure my marriage is over. So I freaked out and now I'm here to ask if I can undo what I did. Or at least if I can reduce the glaring consequences that are coming my way. It all started from my husband and I's obsession with pranks. Yes, I'm unapologetic about this little fact. I love pranks and so does my husband. In fact, we met each other through a big prank that was organized by our mutual friends. But we never once imagined that a prank would be sending the both of us to court for divorce one day. I'm now a cheater who is being tagged as loose and might possibly not have access to my husband ever again. Did I mess up? Yes, I did. How did I do it? I'll tell you that now. I can't reveal our real names, so I'll be going by the name Layla while I'll call my husband Desmond. Don't judge me, because this is the best I can come up with. Desmond and I have been married for close to 2 years now, and we dated for 4 years. Throughout our time together, we have played pranks on each other, and we've had fun. Our friends call us the Gen Z couple because we're always active no matter what. So here's the tea if you're confused. Desmond is 31 years old and he's an attorney. Yes, I've always been proud to flaunt just how smart my husband is. He's always been busy all through his life to get to where he is now, and that's why he likes to have fun whenever he gets the chance. As for me, I went to film school and became the next Angelina Jolie, but it didn't work out, so I just did little gigs and plays. But I stopped once I got married. This information is helpful because it just tells you how crazy Desmond and I are. But I think I have gone a little far this time because I have never seen my husband this angry in my entire life. Okay, I handcuffed him to a radiator and made him listen to me and my neighbor sleeping together, but like I said, things got out of hand. I love pranks, like I said, and I've always loved April Fool's Day because it was like the best day to prank people and have a reason for doing so. Desmond and I made it a thing to come up with something crazy every year, and it became our little tradition. This year, Desmond and I have been going through some rocky times in our relationship. That's mostly because Desmond has been extremely busy recently since the firm he works at has been having a lot of cases and controversies they have to clear. That has made Deskine so tired and busy that he can't keep up with my shenanigans anymore. I know what you guys have in mind to say. I'm a housewife, so I shouldn't complain that my husband is just... Well, that is partially true, but this time it was just too much. So I thought it would be great to get Desmond to be crazy about me again by getting intimate with our neighbor. I needed a reaction from him, and I wanted him to feel like he was neglecting me. I thought it would be something that would remind him of just how crazy we used to be. I wanted it to be a wild prank and also something that would ease his stress off work. I do not like my neighbor romantically or have any feelings for him. I just thought he would be the best person for the prank because he already voiced out the fact that he liked me once. I brushed it off and even spoke to my husband about it. He got angry and wanted to confront the neighbor, but I let him know that it was nothing serious and there was no reason to be dramatic. But when I suddenly had the idea of pranking Desmond, the best person I could think of was the neighbor. He's a single guy with a lot of time on his hands. Frankly speaking, at first all I wanted to do was just to probably kiss my neighbor. I never actually planned to do anything crazy. For reference sake, I'll be calling my neighbor Collins. So like I said, it was never my intent to have anything serious to do with Collins. But when I got associated with him, things changed. I had to start planning for April Fool's Day like 2 months early. I knew I couldn't just wake up one day and tell a grown man I needed to use him to prank my husband. So I decided to approach Collins and tell him of my plans first. Let me just let you all know that approaching him wasn't easy at all. I mean, this is someone that had told me he had feelings for me, and then I let him know that I wasn't interested. So for me to go back for the sake of the person and ask him to help me prank my husband had to take a lot of guts. I also didn't want him to get any idea that I had secret feelings for him or anything like that. I wanted it to be a platonic prank, and I needed him to just casually cooperate with me in the prank. But it later turned out to go in a direction I never expected. When I met Collins, he was confused at first, and it was obvious that he didn't really like the idea. I could tell that he was still angry at me for what I did to him at the beginning. But I was kind of desperate, so I just endured his rants. Now I know how desperate I was because why did it have to be him? Please don't judge me, guys. You don't know how hard it is to want to fix a relationship without knowing how. My relationship with Desmond had always been a playful one, so all I wanted to do was keep up that same energy and watch where it goes. I love pranks, and he did too. So I thought kissing the neighbor would do the trick. But Collins was the devil himself. He was the wrong person to pick, and I ended up learning him the hard way. I should have never chosen Collins as the one to help me prank my husband. He used my weakness as an opportunity. When I told him we were just to kiss so that Desmond would be horrified and get the biggest shock of his life, Collins brought up another issue entirely. But for reference sake, let me make it clear that my definition of being horrified doesn't mean I wanted my husband to be jealous or angry. I mean, the whole point of a prank is to make sure a person sees something they do not expect, and that's exactly what I wanted to do. But then I let Collins use my head. He started calling me over to his place anytime Desmond was away for work with the excuse that we needed to plan the prank. As a jobless housewife, I stupidly listened to him, and I never resisted to go see him whenever he asked. I'm super embarrassed that I even had the audacity to go to meet him. I really took the prank too seriously, and that's where I am now. I shouldn't have let myself loose like that, and I should have tried my best to resist the temptation. It wasn't really tempting at first because when I kept going to see Collins, I didn't really have ill intentions in mind. All I really wanted to do was see him and speak to him casually. I never imagined that he would start putting ideas into my head. First of all, it started with him talking about how kissing wasn't going to be the best thing to get my husband's attention. He started giving me several ideas and made me think that the prank I had in mind wasn't good at all. I started off just ignoring him and telling him Desmond's schedule so we would be prepared for that day. But as time went on, I was influenced by him. Collins was just too friendly and sneaky with me. But I was so blinded with the idea of doing something crazy for April Fool's Day that I never gave what he was doing a second thought. Eventually, and as expected, I got too smitten with him and his corny ways. We started talking way too often, and it almost felt like we had become friends. I didn't really like the way things were going, but I never imagined that things would go out of hand. On the other side of things, Desmond and I had a strain in our relationship. According to him, his firm was losing cases and it was taking a toll on him. That really got to me, and in fact, it became a motivation for me to keep up with my plan of pranking him. I just imagined that doing something crazy and worth remembering would take his kind of work for some time and give him a reason to relax and get back to his old self. The more stressed he was at work, the more motivated I got to make our little April Fool's Day tradition a day to remember. Desmond was always busy staring at his phone and trying to crack down different cases, so I got more worried. I know I might get judged for not being able to help him out, but it's not my fault that we have two different majors. I panicked because I didn't know what to expect on my own because I just felt like it wouldn't be proper to involve Collins in that aspect. I wanted to draw boundaries even though a part of me already knew that there were a lot of boundaries that had already been crossed from the beginning of things. Now, 2 days to April Fool's Day, Desmond asked if I wanted to go out on that day. I told him no because I already had something planned. He asked if I was sure, and then he said yes. He told me he was willing to take a day off from work on that day because he wanted to spend time with me since it had been a thing in our relationship. I told him I didn't feel like going out and that I would prefer it if we just stayed home. I also advised him not to take a day off work because I knew I needed time to set up everything that day, and I didn't want him to be home and spoil it all. I just wanted him to come back from work normally, but then get surprised. But trust me, guys, things didn't end up going as smoothly as it sounds. In fact, things turned out to be worse. Finally, I'm the April Fool's Day. I was left traumatized because everything I had planned turned out to be nothing but absolute asterisk T. Nothing happened like I expected it to, and instead I ended up cheating on my husband in the worst way possible. Before I go on, let me put it out there that I had changed my mind about the prank being just about me kissing. I had decided to do something wild and get intimate with Collins. Even though I might try to deny it, I had the intention to cheat on Desmond. I mean, that's what the prank was about, on my head. It sounded right to me because I concluded that it would just end up being a one-time thing and it was not going to be anything serious. I was already too close with Collins and his corny ways that I wasn't thinking straight. I mean, what did I expect to happen at the end of the day? Did I think that Desmond would be okay with me sleeping with our neighbor? All of these thoughts are just coming now at the wrong time. None of these thoughts came when I actually needed them. I feel like the world's biggest fool and cheater right now, and that's probably because I'm actually the world's biggest fool and cheater. I should have set my priorities right, and I should have never done what I was well aware of wasn't going to end well. I didn't just do a bad thing, I can confirm that I did a stupid thing. So it went on to go like this. I planned to sleep with Collins, and he was well aware of that fact. In fact, I'm sure he planned it all the whole, and I just fell into the trap. I was the stupid one. When he gave me the idea, I took it up after only 2 days of thinking of it, and that's what just proves that I had it in mind to cheat on my husband before. It was not something that just happened that day. It's something that I had been thinking of because I don't know what even got into me and made me think of cheating as the perfect prank on April Fool's Day. So I set up the radiator after Desmond left for work and got the house ready for what I had planned. I waited for him to get back in the evening before I started the first step. I got him in the mood for all I had planned by reading him and flirting. He was really tired, but because he saw how active I was, he just let me do whatever I wanted to do. That's how I was able to handcuff him to the radiator. Don't even ask me how I got the cuffs because it's something that I already had prior to that day. He was against it at first because he was really tired and it had been a long time since we did something like that, and so he didn't want to stress himself out, but he wanted to give me some of his time, so that's how I ended up handcuffing him to the radiator. I stayed there flirting with him for a while before I told him to give him a minute. I left him there and then went upstairs. To be honest, a part of me wanted to just stop everything there and then, but after thinking of all the time I spent trying to perfect the prank, I decided to just go on with it. Plus, when I saw Collins, I just noticed that there was no way I was going to resist. He was dressed in such a way that there was no way I was going to change my mind. That's how I did the bad thing, guys. I was so stupid that I fell for his tricks, and just like that, I went on with the prank. I didn't just sleep with him, I made sure Desmond heard it. We were so loud, I'm sure there's no way he didn't hear it. It didn't help that Collins made sure the door was open. At that moment, I felt ecstatic, and I was so sure that I was giving Desmond a good prank. I thought I was saving my marriage and bringing out the fun side of my husband, not knowing that I was just being the biggest fool in the world. When I was done with Collins, I went downstairs to remove the cuffs from Desmond. I had never seen my husband that angry in my life. Desmond looked like he would have pushed me to my death if not that he had that self-control. He looked defeated and angry. Jay tried to calm him down and explain that it was a prank. But even while I was talking, I didn't believe myself anymore. I couldn't even believe the words that came out of my mouth, and it was at that moment that I asked myself if what happened was really even a prank. Because first of all, I couldn't believe what I had done, and I couldn't believe that I made my own man to a radiator, and sleeping with the neighbor that had expressed interest in me before will never end well. I have also realized that it is never a good idea to put a marriage to test just because you're interested in exploring things and doing something stupid. I am utterly disappointed in myself, and that's why I'm no longer ready to keep on fighting for what I lost. I have signed the divorce papers because I know that there is no longer any way out of this. I know that Desmond will never forgive, and I know he will never settle for less. The last time I saw him was at a distance, and even though I know we will meet during our divorce in court, it was clear to me that he wants absolutely nothing to do with me. Collins tried reaching out, but I made it clear to him that he's just a silly mistake I never plan on repeating ever in my life. There's no way I'd ever forgive myself for what I did, and having anything to do with Collins is going to hurt me more. I had a wonderful marriage, yet I let myself play with it. Desmond and I were doing great until I failed to be with him when he needed me, and instead I decided to cheat on him. At the end of the day, I guess the true joke is on me. Hey Reddit. Honestly, I never thought I'd actually be posting here, but I guess life has a way of throwing crossbows at you. This is actually my first time posting on this app, so I will be using a throwaway account because I do not want this associated with my main account, as I do not post personal stuff on there. My name is Allison, but you can call me Allie. I am a 30-year-old woman. My husband's name is Eric, and he is 29. We've been married for about 4 years, and we have a kid together who is 3 years old. We've been dating since high school and are high school sweethearts. Things were pretty amazing for us for a while. My husband used to have a good job that pays very well. I'm a bit of a stay-at-home mom and a content creator, small business owner. My husband wanted me to actually get a job, but I preferred content creation. It has always been my dream to blow up on Instagram, but for now that isn't happening. I'm still growing my account and it is pretty small. I also run a small business on Instagram, but like I said, it isn't viral yet, though I hope that one day it might actually blow up. As a result of that, I'm usually home with our son. Things were good until my husband got laid off from his job. He was home for some months before he found another job. We probably wouldn't have even survived that if not for the fact that my husband had very good savings and his parents were then happy to help. After that, my husband got another job, but it didn't pay as well as his old one, so he got a part-time job to support the new one. Our savings had plummeted a bit since it took him a while to find a new job. Despite his parents being more than willing to help, my husband preferred not to ask for their assistance. He felt it was his responsibility to provide for our family, even if it meant taking on extra work or running through his savings. The period when he was looking for a job and adjusting to the new financial situation was tough. We had to cut back on some expenses and be more frugal with our spending, but we managed to get through it by supporting each other and making sacrifices where needed. Since my husband was now working 2 jobs, he was extremely busy. Between working 2 jobs and then having to find time to spend with our son, Eric's schedule was packed. He loved our son and adored him. They were way closer to each other than they were to me. My husband wanted to always spend every free moment with our son, playing, teaching, and just being together. That meant there was barely any time for us as a couple. Our conversations were brief, and they usually revolved around schedules and household responsibilities. Date nights became a rarity, and even when we did manage to have some time alone, my husband would often be exhausted from work. I understood his dedication to our son and his commitment to providing for our family, but I couldn't help but feel a sense of loneliness at times. I missed the closeness we used to have, the moments of just being together without distractions. I was extra sad too because my husband had always been so romantic before that. He planned date nights and was always the bigger person, willing to bend over backward for me. He planned the cutest outings and loved spending time with me, indulging in my silly hobbies. But after taking on 2 jobs, he became so busy that our romantic moments became scarce. Our intimacy and sex life also suffered because of his busy schedule. There were nights when we were both exhausted, and the spark we used to have seemed dimmed. My husband, of course, noticed the way things were and assured me that he would quit his part-time job after he was done recovering the money in our savings and adding some more. He apologized for the strain our busy lives had put on our relationship and promised to make things right. However, I was still very lonely and bored. I indulged in many hobbies, from painting to gardening, but still that couldn't help me shake off the feeling of being unwanted. My content creation dreams still weren't kicking off, which made me feel even worse. Seeing others succeed on Instagram while I struggled added to my frustration. Then my husband dared to suggest I find a job. He said if I found a part-time job or something, he could quit his part-time job and we would be able to spend more time together. He mentioned that his parents could watch our son, especially since he was almost old enough for school. But I didn't want to work. The idea of leaving my content creation or not being able to devote as much time to it as I used to before, and the flexibility of being a stay-at-home mom didn't sit well with me. Of course, I refused his suggestion. I could see the disappointment in my husband's eyes, but thankfully he didn't push the issue. He accepted my decision and continued with his busy schedule, although there were moments when I could tell he wished things were different. Since I was very bored, I started doing something I should have never done. I realized there was no harm in trolling people online, especially on dating apps. It was a way to pass the time and inject some excitement into my boring routine. Surprisingly, no one who knew me spotted me on these apps. That is something I did not think about when creating an account on dating apps, that someone who knows me might spot me. Yes, I created a profile on multiple dating apps and started chatting with people, pretending I was single. It was all just in good fun, a way to kill my boredom a bit, you know. I didn't have any intentions of meeting anyone or pursuing anything serious. It was all harmless flirting and banter, or so I thought. It was all pretty harmless fun at first. I enjoyed trolling people and engaging in playful banter. Although deep down, I knew it wasn't the nicest thing to do. I justified it as a way to entertain myself amidst the boredom. Then I met Sam. The first time I saw his profile and swiped right, I couldn't help but marvel at how handsome he was. He immediately messaged me after we matched, and we started talking. At first, I just wanted to troll him like the others, keep up the facade of being single and flirt with him for fun. But as we talked more, I found myself drawn to him in a way I hadn't anticipated. He was charming, funny, and genuinely interested in getting to know me. I started to feel guilty about pretending to be single and leading him on, especially since he seemed like a genuinely nice person. But what overpowered the little guilt I was feeling was the infatuation and desire I had for Sam. I really wanted him, and I would often wonder what it would be like to really be single and date him. No, I didn't love Sam. I'd say I liked him and was infatuated. Yes, I loved my husband dearly, but at that moment I was all caught up in the excitement of Sam. At one point, I even considered deleting all the dating apps and ghosting Sam because I felt like I was digging myself deeper than I had planned to. But I just couldn't bring myself to do it. Sam had become the only person I replied to on the dating app. After a few weeks of talking, we got even more serious and exchanged numbers. Throughout this time, Sam believed I was single. He was unaware of my real relationship status. I had initially planned to just troll people on dating apps for fun, but now here I was, infatuated with a guy named Sam. He was younger too, in his early 20s, which made things even more interesting. Soon we became really tight friends, although Sam wanted more than just friendship. He would drop hints and flirt, and I, caught up in my infatuation, kept leading him on. I didn't realize the consequences of my actions. It was like a game that I couldn't stop playing, even though I knew it wasn't right. I was no longer bored, even when my son wasn't home to keep me company. I would chat with Sam from morning till night. I would eagerly waiting for his messages and finding excuses to extend our conversations. In fact, my husband started to notice the amount of time I spent on my phone, chatting and smiling to myself. He asked about it, but I just brushed off his questions and assured him that it was nothing serious. I didn't want to say or disclose anything about my relationship with Sam. Also, I didn't know if my husband would think of it as cheating. I was just trolling, but didn't it qualify as cheating? Throughout all this, Sam kept asking to meet up and hang out. At first, I used mild excuses to dodge his invitations. I would say I had a busy schedule and officially started dating, and for a while everything seemed perfect. But deep down, I knew that the lie I was living would catch up with me one day. Like I said, for a while I managed to keep my double life properly balanced, even though it was quite challenging. My husband began noticing the growing distance between us and how I was drifting apart more from him. Despite his efforts to save and recover our finances, he couldn't ignore the emotional distance that had crept into our relationship. He started dropping hints about quitting his part-time job after a few months, especially since he had become so distant. He was confused about the change and wondered why, but he attributed it to his busy schedule and felt guilty, blaming himself for the strain on our relationship. On the other side, after a while, Sam started getting a bit suspicious. I avoided telling him anything about my family or introducing him to any of them, using the excuse that it was too early for such introductions. He suggested that I could at least share some details about them, but I refused. Meanwhile, he had shared information about his family, and I had even met his sister. He didn't know where I lived, and that bothered him too. When he asked me to tell him where I lived, I refused and cited privacy concerns. At one point, Sam even suggested that we move in together, but I quickly shut down that idea with the excuse that it was too soon for such a big step. Well, weeks passed, and his suspicions grew because of my strange behavior, and I can't blame him for being suspicious given how I was acting about my family and personal details. I also never spent the night with Sam, something he really wanted me to do. But I would always lie and give excuses to avoid it. It was all just a tangled web of lies, and after a while I think he became even more suspicious. One day Sam asked me to come over and I told him I couldn't. That was because my husband was home that day. However, I promised to come over the next day, thinking he wanted to discuss our relationship or something similar. Little did I know he was going to confront me. Earlier in our relationship, Sam had asked me about my social media so we could follow each other and be mutual. I lied and said I didn't really use social media, even hiding the apps when I was with him. I didn't want him to find out I was married. However, somehow he discovered the truth, whether through someone sending him information or by searching online. When I went to see Sam the next day, he was furious. He threatened to tell my husband, but I wasn't too worried since my husband didn't use social media, and Sam didn't know where I lived. Sam blamed me for lying and leading him on for months. He was angry and heartbroken, and I couldn't bear to be with him, so I left. On my way home, I blocked Sam. In a moment of panic and haste, I made a decision that I would come to regret. I quickly reached for my phone and dialed the restaurant's security. When the security personnel answered, I told them urgently that they needed to kick Sam out because he was a thief. The security guard was understandably surprised and asked me why I would accuse someone of such a serious offense without any evidence. Fueled by fear, I told him that I knew Sam from before and that he had a history of theft. My husband, who was taken aback by my sudden accusation, asked me if I knew Sam, but I remained silent as I didn't want to divulge any more information. I continued to insist to the security guard that I had witnessed Sam steal something from someone in a restaurant. The security guard was clearly taken aback by my sudden and baseless accusation against Sam. He informed me that Sam was a regular patron at the restaurant, and they had never encountered any issues involving him. While my excuse was weak and I could sense the security guard's skepticism, he still had to follow protocol and at least ask Sam a few questions or investigate the matter further. I didn't want to go with the security guard to meet Sam, but my husband insisted that we had to. He found it odd and troubling that I would accuse someone without valid reasons and kept pressing me to explain where I knew Sam from and what restaurant I had seen him stealing. His suspicions were growing, and I realized I had dug a deep hole for myself with my reckless actions. Reluctantly, I followed behind the security guard as he approached Sam. My husband stood beside me, clearly annoyed by the situation. The security guard interrogated Sam half-heartedly, and it was evident that he didn't believe there was any truth to my accusation. My husband's annoyance grew as I struggled to provide a coherent explanation for my actions. I couldn't fabricate a good, easy lie. It was like I was tongue-tied. I couldn't even come up with a name for the restaurant when my husband kept asking me what restaurant I saw Sam in. After a few minutes of fruitless interrogation, the security guard concluded that Sam was not a thief and returned to inform me. He expressed his displeasure at the false alarm and cautioned me against making baseless accusations in the future. The security guard also said that since Sam hadn't stolen from the store, I had no evidence on him and they couldn't just kick him out. With a hint of annoyance, he walked away, leaving me feeling embarrassed and regretful. By this time, Sam had noticed our presence and realized that I was the one who had accused him of theft. As Sam walked towards us, I felt a surge of panic and desperation. This was certainly not one of my finest moments, and I wanted nothing more than to escape the situation. However, my husband, who was now visibly angry and suspicious, took the initiative to meet Sam halfway and offer a sincere apology. I was frozen. I just watched the scene unfold because I knew that the inevitable confrontation was about to happen. My husband apologized to Sam, who graciously accepted the apology. Then, to my horror, Sam asked my husband if I had disclosed our history to him. I could see the shock and confusion registering on my husband's face, and I desperately tried to intervene, urging him not to listen to Sam and that Sam was mentally unstable because deep down, I knew that Sam was about to reveal everything. Sam didn't hold back. He narrated the entire story of how we met on a dating app, our dates, our relationship, and everything in between. My husband and I were left speechless, with my husband more visibly shaken than I was. Sam even went a step further and showed my husband evidence on his phone, pictures, videos, and messages that were undeniable and proved our affair. I started feeling the weight of guilt and shame when I saw my husband's expression. He looked at me with such a mixture of disbelief and hurt I could barely keep eye contact. My gig was up. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of silence, my husband spoke up. He didn't accuse me or throw insults. Instead, he calmly asked Sam to send him all the evidence he had. I stood there feeling like a complete failure as Sam quickly forwarded everything to my husband's phone. My husband thanked Sam and apologized once again, and Sam, I guess now that he had found closure, accepted the apology and walked away. After Sam walked off, reality hit me like a truck. I started apologizing like crazy, feeling everyone's eyes on me and not wanting any more attention. I begged my husband softly, but he wouldn't even look at me. He took care of the bill and left abruptly, leaving me in shock. I followed him outside, hoping to talk things out, but he was furious. He told me to step away from his car or he'd shove me aside. It was clear he didn't want me near him. I stood there watching him drive off, feeling completely alone and devastated. After the whole thing, I angrily texted Sam and threw a few choices words his way. Reality had hit hard. I hailed an Uber and headed home, only to find my stuff being tossed outside like garbage. It was a harsh wake-up call. I paid the driver and rushed inside to face my husband, and things quickly spiraled into a heated argument. I begged and pleaded, promising change, but he wasn't having it. His anger was justified. Our kid wasn't home, thank goodness. My mother-in-law had taken him away earlier. That spared him from the drama, but left me facing the full force of my husband's fury alone. After the whole thing, I angrily texted Sam and threw a few choice words his way. Reality hit me hard. I hailed an Uber and headed home, only to find my stuff being tossed outside like garbage. It was a harsh wake-up call. I paid the driver and rushed inside to face my husband, and things quickly spiraled into a heated argument. He was furious, saying he didn't want me around after cheating on him. He felt like everything we worked for was shattered. I tried to explain that I'd changed, but he wasn't buying it. I begged and pleaded, promising change, but he wasn't having it. His anger was justified. Our kid wasn't home, thank goodness. My mother-in-law had taken him away earlier. That spared him from the drama, but left me facing the full force of my husband's fury alone. I kept on begging. I said he could take my phone, lock me in the house, and do whatever he wanted, but he refused. He said that nothing could stop a cheater from cheating, and they always find a way. He said I wasn't a child and that he wasn't going to police me. He told me to leave before our child returned. It was a gut-wrenching moment. I packed up, called another Uber, and ended up in a hotel room feeling lost and sorry for myself. I kept thinking about how things had escalated so quickly. I felt like a complete mess. I kept thinking about how unfair it was that one mistake could cost me everything. I'm frustrated that my husband can't forgive me. It's tough to swallow that one mistake could cost me so much. I'm desperate to fix things, but my husband's not budging. It's frustrating because I've realized my wrongs, but I can't turn back time. I'm stuck in this limbo of regret and hope. I wonder if there's any way to make things right. I'm sorry if this is a bit too long or if it is written all over the place. I'm still quite sad and shocked by what has happened. I would really appreciate any help advice I would get on here on how to win my husband back. Thank you, Reddit. Update. Hey Reddit, it's me again. Wow, I never expected such a backlash when I posted this. The comments were brutal, to say the least. I know I messed up, but I was hoping for some helpful advice, not a torrent of insults. It's been a week since then, and I've been hesitant to update because of how harsh it got. Logging into Reddit feels like walking into a storm. As for updates, things have taken a turn for the worse. My husband isn't budging on forgiveness or even considering therapy. He's made it clear that divorce is on the table, and he's already taken steps like clearing out our joint account. I have no money without my husband, so I am basically broke right now. I've begged and cried and pleased, but he won't budge. I've told him I'll do anything, but he doesn't want to listen to me. I'm feeling the financial strain now. I reached out to family and friends for help, but it's like hitting a wall of excuses. Their houses are either too full or have no space for me. They all blame me and say I shouldn't have cheated. Nobody wants to take me in. I've cried my eyes out. Things are so bad for me. Sam wouldn't even reply, and he was my last resort. I'm stuck in this hotel feeling broke and alone and also jobless. It's a tough spot to be in, especially with Reddit trolls adding salt to the wound. Update. Hey Reddit, it's been about a month since I last posted, and the response has been even harsher. It's gotten to the point where I've become somewhat desensitized to the insensitivity of some messages and emails. Let me clarify a few things that seem to be common questions or comments. Firstly, I can't disclose the specific state I live in for privacy reasons, but yes, we're in the US. In our state, there's a requirement to live separately for a year before finalizing a divorce. However, due to the infidelity aspect, there might be a faster process, possibly around 2 months, but I'm not entirely sure about the details. My focus right now isn't so much on the divorce process as it is on hoping for forgiveness from my husband. I've been actively searching for a job as well. Despite the interest in my personal life and the divorce topic, nobody cares about me personally. I'm also trying to sustain myself financially. Content creation is something I still want to pursue, but realistically, I'll need a part-time job to make ends meet until things stabilize. It's challenging facing this situation with little support, but I'm staying hopeful that things will improve, both personally and professionally. Update. Hey Reddit, it's been a month since I last updated you guys, and the responses just keep getting worse. I've received so many insensitive comments and messages that I've become somewhat desensitized to it all. It's crazy how brutal some people can be, especially when I came here seeking helpful advice. Well, let me give you all a mini update. I woke up feeling really down today. I'm still on the hunt for a job, but I'm trying to stay hopeful that something will come along soon. On top of that, I haven't heard a peep from my family ever since I called them last. It's like they've completely ghosted me. No calls, no texts. It's as if I don't exist to them anymore. Honestly, I'm starting to feel like they don't care about me at all. The silence is deafening, and it's taking a toll on my emotional well-being. I'm just so tired. They're physically and emotionally drained from everything. And yes, the divorce process is moving along swiftly. We're currently going through all the legal proceedings, and it's been a roller coaster of emotions. But you know what, Reddit? Once this whole divorce mess is behind me, I'll be sure to update you all again. And after that, I'll take a break from Reddit like some of you seem to want. Until then, thanks for reading, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Update. Hey everyone, it's been a while since I last shared an update. I think it's been about 2 weeks or so, but honestly, I haven't really been keeping track of time amidst everything going on. Anyway, I've got some news to share. I have a job interview coming up, so wish me luck. As for the divorce proceedings, they're still ongoing, and honestly, it's a bit of a sensitive topic for me right now, so I'd rather not go into that at the moment. One thing many of you have been asking about is my son. Yes, I do make sure to see him regularly. I visit him, spend time with him, and we talk. He's at that curious age where he's trying to make sense of everything, so we've been doing our best to explain things to him in a way that he can understand. It basically boils down to mommy needing to be away for a while, and we're trying to keep it as kid-friendly as possible. It's been tough juggling everything, but I'm doing my best to stay strong and focused. Your hate messages and mean comments all mean a lot to me, so thank you for motivating me to keep going during this challenging time. I'll be sure to keep you all updated on how the job interview goes and any other significant developments. Update. Hey Reddit, here's a quick update. I landed the job, hooray. It's got decent pay, although the hours are a bit long. But hey, it's just temporary, and it means I can finally bid farewell to this godforsaken hotel. Now about the comments questioning my love for my husband and how fast I moved on. Look, I've always been straightforward. If something's not working, I don't stick around. Sure, I still have feelings for my husband, but I've faced the reality that forgiveness may not be in the cards. So I'm moving forward. It's not about not loving him, it's about taking care of myself. Anyway, that's the latest scoop. I'll keep you posted as things unfold. Update. Hey Reddit, it's been quite a while, hasn't it? I've been offline for over 5 months, and it feels strange to be back. I checked my messages and was overwhelmed by the number of DMs and messages asking for an update. So here it goes. Firstly, the divorce proceedings are over. As I mentioned before, in my state, getting a divorce typically requires a year of separation, but due to the infidelity claim, my ex-partner and I managed to wrap things up in about 2 months. It was a relatively straightforward process since there wasn't much to split. He had the bulk of the assets and income, so he retained most of it, including the house. I know many of you were expecting a similar outcome and you warned me about it. I was aware that in cases of infidelity, custody often goes to the other parent. It was painful for me, and I won't deny that I had my moments of crying in private. However, I believe my son will have a better life with his father and I'll still have regular visitation rights, mainly on weekends. This might be my final update here. I'm considering deleting my account and focusing on self-improvement. I want to thank everyone for their support and the few positive comments I received. Your encouragement meant a lot during this challenging time.